Everybody's searching for truth, but most are digging in all the wrong places. Today, we're lighting a torch and showing why the Bible isn't just one opinion among many. It's the roadmap for anyone who actually wants to find truth with a capital T. Think about it. In a world that changes its mind faster than a TikTok trend, truth feels like it's slipping through our fingers. Culture says, create your truth. Philosophy says, question your truth. Meanwhile, Jesus steps in calmly, but unapologetically declaring, I am the way, I am the truth, and I am the life. And that's John 14:6. No footnotes, no asterisks, no opt out button. The nature of truth is is on display. First, let's get one thing straight. Truth isn't a vibe, it's not a suggestion, it's not even a collective vote. Truth is that which corresponds to reality. And if there's a God who created reality, then his word is reality's owner's manual. The Bible doesn't just contain truth, it defines it, it reveals it, and it invites us into it. Every page is a flashlight for a world stumbling in the dark. And that's the crux of this argument that the Bible is the foundation for knowing truth. Psalm 119 says, "The sum of your word is truth, and every one of your righteous rules endures forever." Did you catch that? Not just a slice of scripture, the sum, the whole. You can't cherry pick verses like you're at a salad bar and expect to know the real truth. It's either all his word or it's none of it. The Bible doesn't just tell us what's true, it shapes how we recognize truth in the first place. Logic, morality, justice, none of these exist meaningfully without the God who breathed them into existence. So, why would we need a guide? Because without a guide, you're just making educated guesses in a spiritual fog. Proverbs 14:12 warns us, in fact, that there is a way that seems right to a man, but its end is the way to death. So, what's the translation? What feels right might be flat out wrong. Following your heart sounds cute, and it's perfect for a rom com until you realize that Jeremiah 17:9 says the heart is deceitful above all things. Like, ouch. That is a shocking revelation. So, how do we take that and realize that the Bible can actually guide us, even knowing that our heart is deceitful above all else? Well, it's not, we begin with the premise that it's not just ancient stories or motivational quotes. It gives us a lens to see reality clearly. When culture says you are the center of the universe, scripture says no, God is. Colossians 1:16. When emotions tell you that you're worthless, scripture screams back, no, you are fearfully and wonderfully made. Psalm 139. And frankly, you're also an image bearer of God. And if God doesn't make an image bearer that's worthless. Image bearer meaning that you are made in God's image. When doubt whispers to you, you'll never make it, scripture turns around, roars back, and says, he who began a good work in you will carry it to completion. And that's Philippians 1:6. Scripture corrects, it redirects, it heals, it reveals. Scripture is the truth that you can always rely on, you can always go back to under all circumstances. And truth ultimately leads to worship. The ultimate goal isn't just knowing facts, it's knowing a person, and that person is Jesus Christ. Real truth doesn't end in pride or self congratulations, it ends in worship. The Bible doesn't guide us to an answer sheet, it guides us into relationship with the one who is truth. If you've ever wondered, there's a reason why Jesus is called the Word, the Logos in Greek, because he is the Word. He is the one word of truth. in our life that we can always rely on. He is the foundation, the firm foundation that your life, although not easy, will can be built on, that will never fail you, never ever fail you. And so that is your opportunity though. You can either build your life on shifting sand, or on the rock being Christ that never moves. The Bible isn't a suggestion manual. It's a survival guide for a world that is marred in sin. It is a rescue plan. It's a love letter from truth itself, and itself is a himself, and that's Christ. So if you're tired of chasing your tail in a culture that keeps moving the goalpost over and over, open the only book that doesn't budge. Let the Bible guide your search, and you'll find a truth that never fails. By living in truth, living boldly, standing firm, your life, although not easy, will be a life of contentment, of joy, and even of supernatural peace in circumstances that without Jesus, it would be utterly impossible to navigate. And so, yeah, it can be difficult. And yeah, the Bible can be very hard for somebody in 2025 to read, because we live in a different culture. We live in a time where we have so many things available to us. In fact, it's never actually been easier to have the Bible uh, free, and through apps and through places giving them away. And it's never been easier to know more about Jesus. But the question is, do we actually know less about him now than we ever have? And that's a stunning proposition to think about. And so my call to everybody watching is, take this to Jesus, take this in prayer. Whether you're doubting, whether you have questions of your own faith, take it to God, and see what happens. Be willing to pick up your cross and bear it every day, and realize that that may not look the way that you thought it would, because you're used to Instagram Christianity where everything works out perfect all the time and your kids never misbehave and you never have a bad hair day. That's not what scripture tells us. In fact, think about, just as an example, Jesus had 12 disciples. Judas, who ultimately betrayed Jesus, committed suicide. So then there were 11 disciples. Of the 11 disciples left, one of them, John, was not martyred for the faith. The other 10, and then if you want to throw in the Apostle Paul, who is a pretty important figure, writing 13 of the 27 books of the New Testament, they were all brutally murdered and martyred for the faith. They were crucified, they were flayed alive, they were sawed in half, they were stoned, they were stabbed, they were clubbed to death. How do you how do you know that's your going to be your end here on earth, not your eternal end, but your end on earth, and go into it with joy, and go into it with a contentment and that supernatural peace, because you have experienced the goodness of God. And everybody that places their faith in Jesus, God's grace will cover you and give you that supernatural peace, give you that solid foundation, that even in life's most difficult circumstances, God will continue to work all things for the good of those that love him and do his purposes. And if you are doing God's purpose, his kingdom building purpose for your life, he's going to be with you. And you will always know that whatever's happening, it has it has a purpose so much greater than whatever you can see. Even if you even if you're opening up your peripherals and trying to see every conceivable way how this could be a good scenario, you can rest assured that it will, because God's told us that. He's told us that in his word, he's told us that in scripture, and God is incapable of lying. God is honest, God is truth. And so if he tells us that, then we know that is the case. And it doesn't make the circumstance necessarily less tumultuous and difficult at the time, but it can give you the view that there's real meaning in this. There is purpose in this pain, and I'm going to endeavor through it with every bit of joy I can, and where I can't, where my weakness is on display, we know that God's strength is manifest. And so if you're struggling, if you have doubts, that's fine. Take them to Jesus. Your doubts are not bigger than our God. If you need to talk to somebody about it, find a trusted brother or sister that can help you. If not, reach out to us. Reach out to us at beblessed@tatministries.org. Reach out with a comment, reach out on Instagram. Our ministry is here for you to help you in any way possible to understand God's goodness and to work through those difficult situations. And if there are other topics that you're hoping that we address, send us a message. We'd love to know what they are, and we'd love to address them. I appreciate you being here today and watching this live stream. Send it to a brother. Please subscribe if you're not, and have a blessed day.